Good evening, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. This is a special town hall on ethnic studies. It's on short notice because tomorrow we're asking folks to convene at the Texas State Capitol to champion House Bill 1504, which will make ethnic studies count towards high school graduation. We got several folks who are going to bring on screen with you today, including elected officials, including educators, including students. And at the bottom of the screen, I also want to scroll one bit of information. Hey, because, short notice gives you that little visceral thrill, that notch of adrenaline, I hope. And I hope you can roll with it. If you want to get involved and you've got time between now and 7 p.m., please send written testimony supporting House Bill 1504 in the next 29 minutes. This way, it can be used to show, this way it can be used tomorrow. It can be given to the folks that sit on the Public Education Committee. And basically, because of COVID-19, there's different restrictions. Just a few of us will go in person. If you can go in person, we'll tell you what to do tomorrow morning. They're not taking as many remote testimonies as you would imagine. In fact, it's difficult and complicated. So if you want to send a written testimony and you want it in the hands of the people who sit on the Public Education Committee tomorrow morning, please send that in by 7 p.m. We've got the email scrolling down at the bottom. It's Isaac Maxim at house.texas.gov. We'll put that in the comments in a little bit, but that's by 7 p.m. We can tell you a little bit more why that's the case. If you want some talking points, visit texassizedhistory.com so that you can get an idea of what's in the bill. But one thing we're telling people to say is that this curriculum, these courses, help the graduation rate increase, help students succeed, and get students motivated. The research has proven that. Your note could be that quick and simple. And of course, we have to make sure that this bill gets out of the Public Education Committee and continues. So if you miss this opportunity or hear about this later, you can still get involved. But again, we're on short notice right now. I'm about to bring in some of our great speakers. We've got Dr. Angela Valenzuela, whose work has been pivotal in documenting why ethnic studies is powerful. Also, Dr. Christopher Carmona, who's the chair of the K-12 Tejas FOCO Education Committee, and some educators, Ronald Castro, who will be testifying tomorrow, Lucero, Saldana, who will be testifying tomorrow, and the student, and I believe also Texas State Representative Marissa, who has been on board with this for so long, and also the Texas State Representative Cristina Morales, who is co-authoring the bill. So I'm going to look down at the screen, so forgive me if I'm not making eye contact. We're juggling a lot of things. I'm going to bring these people into the screen. So first of all, I want to welcome Dr. Angela Valenzuela. Valenzuela, you are on screen right now, Dr. Valenzuela. First of all, thank you for all the work that you've done. I want you to say hi, and I'm going to make sure that people can see on the bottom where they can send their note to back this up. But if someone is watching either this now or when we rebroadcast this, why is this bill so important, Dr. Valenzuela? You've dedicated your research to proving that these courses are important, and you've dedicated so much of your time. Why should anyone care about House Bill 1504?
Yeah, thank you, Tony, and thank you for everybody that's listening. This is yet another opportunity for us to make history. House Bill 1504 builds on the excellent work of the National Association for Chicana and Chicano Studies, Tejas FOCO, which is the Texas State chapter of the National NACCS organization. We are we're faculty, we are undergraduates, graduate students, community members, there's elders that have been with us. The fight began in 2014 with the State Board of Education on the heels of the denial of the Mexican American Studies program in the Tucson Unified School District, and of course the Librotraficante initiative got started was inspired by that moment, which we all knew as dreadful because of the ramifications that it could have in other places like Texas. And so I'm very proud of our community. We mobilized in, it's really a longer story, a legacy initiative, a legacy agenda. And it's always been to be included in state curriculum. What's so problematic about that? Why haven't we done that already? It's really crazy. But in any case, we had argued previously for inclusion. Those efforts were muted, not too successful. So in 2014, what we asked for was a separate course on Mexican American studies. That didn't happen. There were winds and turns. We were able to get textbooks. We got a racist textbook. We had to defeat the racist textbook. And then we finally got onto the conversation of actually passing ethnic studies. We did have a bill in the 2017 session. We advocated for it. And what worked was the route through the Texas State Board of Education. What we know from the way these processes work is that if you have a bill that makes it through the Texas State Legislature, the importance of getting this passed is that it goes to the top of the docket, the top of the agenda, and becomes a priority for the Texas State Board of Education to pass. We know that ethnic studies works in ways that we care about. Students graduate at higher rates, that have higher achievement, and it has to do with a sense of belonging and a sense of identity, and frankly a critical analysis of what the world is going through right now. It's an antidote to the extremism that we see right now in our nation that is so divisive. It's not just a curriculum. We're talking about curriculum. It's also about a pedagogy. I take my cues, many of us take our cues from the curriculum that was developed out of Tucson, the Tucson Independent School District, with the idea that what we want to do is see the humanity in others, right? To see the humanity in their story and their histories and their cultures and their language, because so much of schooling, unfortunately, and so much of society and politics is so dehumanizing. And so what we want to do is really just, disrupt, and I mean that positively, right? We want to disrupt these forces that really just continue to threaten to divide us as a nation. If we don't know how to learn, if we don't know how to live together, if we're not willing to learn together, then we're doomed. Positively stated, ethnic studies is indeed the route going forward. I'm a product of Tony and Chris. We're products of ethnic studies, Mexican American studies in particular. I'm also an affiliate of Native American and Indigenous studies, and it is so important to know in a deep way the foundations of this state and this country and our connection to the land, right? Our connection to this place that is home, even if we're often treated like strangers. So thanks everybody.
Powerful. That's so powerful. So, folks, if you've missed taking a class from Dr. Valenzuela, you can live one right now, and you might wind up in a chapter of history. So I just want to tell folks that might have stumbled in, we need you to support ethnic studies right now. There is a bill co-sponsored by Texas State Representative Cristina Morales. We have a very powerful group of individuals that convened on short notice. We're going to bring them on in just 1 second. We need you to do your part. If you can please send your written testimony to the email on the screen, send it to isaacmaxim@house.texas.gov, so that if you send it by 7 p.m. tonight, the folks that sit on the Public Education Committee will be handed those testimonies tomorrow. Some of us will go in person and register at the kiosk because of COVID-19. Everything's a little different. We're not taking buses up this time, plus a short notice. But you can get involved up to 7 p.m. tonight. We need this bill to make it out of the Public Education Committee to continue forth. A few of the other folks you'll be speaking with tonight, also Texas State Board Representative Ruben Cortez. I think I saw him. I might be daydreaming and happy. There he is. Also Marissa Perez, Texas State Board of Education Representative Marissa Perez will be joining us as well. All because they've been championing different facets of this movement. It's showtime. So I do want to bring some other folks in. And if I drop you, please forgive me, Dr. Valenzuela. We will get back to you. I'm going to get I'm going to get Cristina Morales. Cristina Morales is Tech State Representative here in Houston, Texas for Segundo Barrio, Second Ward. And she is the one that has been pushing this. She wrote the bill out. This is one of her main bills pushing forward. Representative Morales, it's almost showtime. What are your thoughts? What should we know leading into this?
We've been waiting a year for this moment, Tony. Just what an honor to be able to file this bill. Tony, I got to thank you so much for inspiring me, pushing me to file this piece of legislation. We worked really hard to make sure that it was something that was doable this legislative session, and I feel very excited. And I think with the testimonials, hopefully we get some tonight. Those will be very, very helpful. And then, of course, with the in-person and virtual testimonies, I know they will be very impactful. I just want to thank all of the educators and the one student almost educator on this live telecast tonight, because this is for you. I know you all have been working so hard to make sure that our students feel empowered when they get educated in school, and this needs to start at the high school level. And this is just one small step to ensure that our kids learn their history and become leaders in our community. I'm very excited about tomorrow. I just got to Austin right now, so I'm sorry if I'm fumbling a little bit, but I literally just ran into my apartment. I'm so happy I was able to be on the call. I'm going to get myself ready because the committee, I believe, starts at 8 a.m. I still got to look through my calendar, but because I'm still considered a freshman, my bill layout usually will be towards the end, depending on if more senior legislators come in. So it's really hard. We're just going to be monitoring all day, and then I have other committee hearings and then have to be on the House floor as well. So it's going to be an incredibly busy day. We'll be running all around, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be fun. Isaac, my legislative director, prepared a wonderful bill layout for me. So I'll be touching on a lot of the points from the op-ed that we did in the Houston Chronicle, which was amazing. And so I'm very thrilled about that. I've been working this bill, even though it hasn't been laid out yet. So I've been talking to all the Public Education Committee members and getting their feel for this bill, because I'm trying to see what is going to be your opposition to this bill, if any, everything that's been mentioned, which wasn't many things. We already have an answer for everything. So I don't see why they would vote against it. The biggest challenge is going to be getting on the House floor and getting into calendars. That's when everybody on this call needs to call their state representative and say, please vote for this bill. Please support this bill. And in the coming weeks, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to co-author this bill. So if nothing else, we're going to have a bunch of co-authors and we're going to make it out of committee. And then we just got to work it in the House and make sure that it gets on the calendars.
That's exciting. We know you have a long day ahead of you tomorrow. Appreciate you putting all this time and energy. For folks that may not know, you come from a legacy Chicano family, Mexican family that has deep roots in Segundo Barrio, including starting the first Spanish language radio station on the Gulf Coast, the first Latino Mexican funeral home respecting our traditions. And when people think of how much Spanish media there is now, I want them to really appreciate the fact that at one point there were none, and that was the first. So do you have like 2 minutes so we can bring in some of the other elected officials just to convene with you, at least here right now, just for a few minutes?
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay. Because I know it's going to be a short night. So, and I hope I don't lose anybody. Give me 1 second here. Let me bring in the folks. Let me bring in Dr. Carmona and Marissa Perez, Tech State Board of Education, State Representative, and Ruben Cortez, Texas State Board of Education representative from the Valley. And let's get Dr. Valenzuela back in. And then I'm going to get Lucero and Ron in 1 second. But I did want the elected officials and also the chair of our committee to at least to get to say hi. Hey, Ruben, from the Valley to the Austin back, what are your thoughts on this bill, speaking about from the Texas State Board of Education side?
Well, I remember being on that meeting with you over a year ago when we talked about this. And so, and Representative Morales was on there. And so I'm glad you're championing this. It's very, very exciting. I think this is the culmination, and I'll go back to what Dr. Valenzuela said. This is the culmination of all the work that you guys have put out there. That Marissa, myself, and others on the Board of Education took to the finish line. And if this piece of legislation passes, it's going to cement all the work that all of you did, all the work that Texas rallied to help Marissa and I and the rest of the SBOE get these courses implemented. And we're still the only Board of Education in the country to have a Mexican American Studies approved course. And now we have an African American Studies course. So we're the only Board of Education in the nation that has both of these courses approved by a Board of Education in the state of Texas, right? In any state. And so to see a piece of legislation like this potentially become law, giving students the opportunity to take one of these for a graduation requirement, it's very, very exciting. Thank you, Representative Morales, for your leadership in this. Very, very exciting stuff. We're with you. I'll be in Austin next week. I'd love to visit with you about the bill. I'll make sure I'll grab Marissa. She's carrying an extra little life in her, but Marissa and I will walk across the Capitol and visit with you. We'd love to talk more about this and how we can be instrumental in helping you. But no, thank you guys for giving me a few minutes. I'm in San Antonio right now on the road. I'm actually with Marissa's husband.
Because Ruben loves him more than he loves me.
So, but no, Representative Morales, thank you very much.
Oh my God, thank you guys for all your work.
It's nice to see all of you guys. Chris, as always, my buddy Tony, un fuerte abrazo para todos ustedes. And thank you for what you all are doing. Very, very excited about what's happening.
Thank you, Ruben. Appreciate all the support, everything that you do, and your continued ánimo for pushing this. Gracias. And Marissa, representing San Antonio, what are your thoughts on this moment in terms of all these aspects of the fight? Because there's even parts of this struggle that people don't know about, or that folks had to team up individually, and maybe San Antonio had to do it, maybe the Valley had to do it, maybe all of a sudden it's Houston has to do it, pero entre todos, no?
Absolutely. Well, yes, thank you so much for I think just first of all to Angela, to Emilio, Chris, Tony, for being the warriors in the very beginning of this process, right? When Ruben and I started this work for the state board side, and I know Angela mentioned the 2014 kickoff, but if you all remember, we were working on this in 2013, trying to even get language put together. So thank you. And then, I cannot, I just have an immense amount of respect and appreciation for the work that you're doing, Representative Morales, to push this forward, because you're going to make history by doing this. It's really exciting, and it's really surprising that Texas is a leader in this work, but it's exciting to be here. And I won't repeat everything that Ruben said. I think he put it together just beautifully. It's been a long struggle, but we're very lucky to be in the place that we're at right now. We still have a lot of work to go. And I will share that I literally just got off the phone with some tremendous advocates and scholars and young students who are interested in launching an AAPI course. And so that work is starting to get started as well. And so your bill, Representative Morales, if passed, will help that work along too. So you're creating a pathway for us. And as Ruben said, if there's anything that we can do to be by your side as champions, we're there 110%. And to everybody that's tuned in, watching this, joining this space with us, and who's been by our side fighting this battle. I mean, this is about our youth, about providing history that is representative and inclusive of all of our histories, right? We all have contributed in big ways. And so this is a way to validate and justify our being here, our humanity, our dignity, our identities. And I'm just so excited to be a part of this. So thank you.
And we will come see you next week.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. By the way,
I do need your help when you're here, because we'll have to go and talk to those members and let them know how important it is that this bill becomes law.
Sign us up.
I'll text you and we can arrange a time so that we can meet you.
Perfect.
This is amazing. So I do want to pause for 1 second. So folks, if you can send a letter of support, please do it by 7 p.m. tonight so that the folks on the Public Education Committee get it right away. There's public testimony tomorrow. I know I'm going to be up there. Ronald Castro, an educator who we'll have on in a little bit, will be there. Lucero, Saldana will be there. Dr. Valenzuela will be there tomorrow, testify in person. If you can go, you sign up in the kiosk in the morning. We're going to rebroadcast. This is amazing. I want to point out the great history on screen right now, working for you, ladies and your gente. This is power here. I got to point out the power convening for you on short notice for people watching. We're going to rebroadcast this on Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Having Their Say, and Latino Politics Union, because I want the record to show on screen right now. We have Texas State Representative Cristina Morales, Texas State Board of Representatives. We got Ruben. Texas State, we also have Texas State Board of Representative Marissa Perez. We have 2 PhDs, so you outrank us in that window with Dr. Valenzuela and Dr. Zamora. And then we also have Dr. Carmona. I only have an MFA. I'm outranked by everybody. But we do want to give a shout out to Dr. Zamora, say a few words, and we'll have Dr. Carmona say a few words. I will add this. If anyone has to bow out neatly, we won't take offense. And I'm going to try and squeeze in the teachers as well to see how many people we can get on screen at once. But I do want, and if anyone wants to give us a little signal, definitely we want to hear some more words from you. But Dr. Zamora, do you want to say a few words about how this all fits into the incredible legacy of Mexican American studies and Mexican American history?
Well, first of all, recognitions by the power vested in me, Tony. You have an honorary PhD. I mean, my God, if anybody's been out there in front and leading and with creative ideas, and it's you. And this all wouldn't have been possible without every single one of us, including you, and so many people that are watching. But Representative Morales, we knocked on the door. They let us put a foot in the door, and now we're pushing our way in. And thanks to you, we're taking that next step and pushing that door open for our children. That's why we're doing this, for the children and the children to come. And that's why everybody else is doing it. It's not vainglory. Anyway, we're also very much a part of a history of struggle that extends back to the 1800s. We're being true to that history. We are good sons and daughters to that history. And this applies to everybody here. This is a very honorable enterprise, primarily because it's for the children, and also because it continues that legacy of making claims for just rights. So I congratulate you, Representative. I finally got to see the face of that powerhouse that everybody's talking about now. Thank you very much. I won't be there tomorrow. I have classes that I have to teach. But I urge everybody to attend as best they can, physically or electronically.
So we have a press conference in the morning. I think you announced it earlier at 9:30 on the south steps of the Capitol. And I just want to underscore again, Representative, that your bill is brilliant. I am really, really happy with that bill because it calls for inclusion without like making people feel like they're giving anything up. In that, as written, Mexican American Studies and African American Studies will count toward high school graduation. It's not like what happened in California, right? Where I think it was, pretty determined that it would be required for graduation. Here is that it would count, and it sounds like a subtlety, and it is, but it's very, very meaningful in a way that I think just responds to the needs of our state, and I think the political viability of House Bill 1504. Yeah, thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you. I do think, we gave it a lot of thought, and we thought, how can we do this and really not get any opposition? And, these classes are already approved. So we're just adding them as just another substitute to get your graduation credit. So it should be a slam dunk, really. And if you guys come to Austin, so tomorrow is a big day, but we could still use your help after tomorrow, because tomorrow is just the first step of many. These bills are designed not to pass. The way the legislature works, it's designed for no bills to pass. So you have to keep working at it, and there's several steps. So we're going to need everyone's support. We have to continue to reach out to the legislators, all 150 of them, and we've got to continue to write these letters and send emails, and all of that needs to continue to happen until there's no more days left in the legislature. So we're going to keep doing that, and so we do need everyone's support. But yes, thank you for mentioning how brilliant it was. It was actually my chief of staff calling around and finding out how could we really make something like this pass right now in this climate, in this, divisiveness where, we don't, the excuse is going to be, we don't want to mandate anything. But we're really not mandating anything. And there's really no cost to this. This is already built in. It's already there. The hard work was already done, and it had full bipartisan support. So we're just taking the next step. And it seems small, like you said, but it's actually huge, especially during this time when we get to post-pandemic, hopefully at the end, towards the fall, and kids go back to school. There's so many kids that are just dropping out right now. I know in HISD, we were on a call, and they said like one of the grades where they have the least enrollment is 11th grade. That means dropout to me. So this could empower young kids to come back in, and with the little bit they need just to graduate, because they don't have a lot of space to take electives. Right. So this would totally empower a young Latino, Mexican American kid, or an African American kid, and in the future, Asian American and everything else. So I'm just thrilled to be a part of this, and I'm just so proud to have your support. Thank you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, folks, we're going to be working for this. The session ends in May. There's a lot of work to do. I want to throw it to Dr. Christopher Carmona, who is the chair of the K-12 Mexican American Studies Committee of NACCS Tejas FOCO. Christopher, this looks like one of our forums, right? Is this the summit?
Yeah. Yeah, we got everybody at the last minute, which is great. I just want to say that, I'm starting to push this. I won't be there tomorrow, but I've already sent in my written testimony and helped to organize, and we'll continue to organize until this thing gets passed, and even after, because we're not going to stop, right? We got more to do. And I just want to say, when Amelia was talking about legacy, I just did an interview on Saturday talking about our work with the K-12 committee. And it turns out that the interviewer was a former student of yours at Texas A&M. Wow. In Kingsville, yeah. And so he mentioned you, and I said, yeah, still working with him. He's still in the fight. So full circle, right? That, you know, Emilio has been working on this for a long time. And, but yeah, so we're still in the game. We're still fighting for everything. And yeah, and Marissa and Ruben and Representative Morales, you guys are going to be great helps to this cause. And, you know, it's something that we have been doing for a long time, right? And it's something that, you know, we're going to continue to do as long as we can. And, but yeah, so really, I mean, everybody who can, I know it's short notice, please try to make it out tomorrow to Austin. If not, you know, we're gonna, you know, once this gets out of committee, we are going. There's going to be more of these, and so we can do a better job of getting this. I mean, we did on such short notice. We got a lot of people, so if we have more time, we can get this going and you know, and do some more work that we have to do to get people out there. But yes, I'd like to thank everybody here and for all their work, and Tony for putting this together. And but yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, this has been you know, it's not been a struggle. You know, when we get together, we work. It's like family, right? We all get together and figure things out, and we push these things through. So I just want to, you know, shout out to everybody. But yes,
that's awesome. We appreciate.
Tony, I have a question.
Yes.
So I've been driving for the last 3 hours, so I haven't kept up with all the emails and texts. And I know you've been speaking to my staff, but do we know how many are going to be there to testify yet?
So, and actually, this is good because we really do want people to be educated in the whole process. So right now, we've got 4 people for sure in person. So myself, Tata Valenzuela, Lucero Saldana, who's on the call right now. We're about to bring her on board, and Ronald Castro, who's also a high school teacher. So they're about to come on board. We have 4 people to testify in person for sure. So we're going to show up in the morning, go to the kiosk. We let Isaac know. What's the ideal? Obviously, we're hoping people on short notice who are in Austin or near it might show up tomorrow morning. But there's also a lot of bills on that. I was looking at the list. There were about 20 bills on that list tomorrow.
There are 20 bills, so it's really hard to say how long. It depends on if the other bills have testimonials. And I was trying to look at if they were anything that, you know, would require a lot of testimony, but it's really hard to say. You know, we have some bills that come in my committee, and they seem so simple, but they have like 5 people coming to testify. And the one thing we don't want to do is everybody say the same thing. So I love that you have a student, because we need to hear the student's perspective. It sounds like you have some great folks already. Dr. Valenzuela, we're thrilled to have you. There could be questions from the committee regarding, you know, I believe all of them are educators, but not necessarily. Or they may have forgotten by now. So they may have questions about, you know, just certain things. And I'm not an educator, so it would be great if somebody can answer those detailed questions when it comes to, you know, the process, or, you know, how. So, you know, please be prepared for those kinds of questions. One, actually, it was Dan Huberty, who filed HB3 last session. He had a couple of questions, more technical questions, and I just want to make sure there's someone there to answer those. That's one of my concerns.
May I say something, Tony? For the sake of the folks that are unsure whether to go and testify or not, because they figure that other people know more than they do, don't count yourself out. I would suggest that you go in with a mind that this is good for all the children. Keep that in mind. You can build arguments around that. All children have a right to know about others. All children need to have a full sense of history, a full sense of contemporary society. Keep that in mind. That would be a good way to, I hope that encourages you. You can argue also for Mexican Americans and African Americans, but if you argue for the children as a whole, that is a solid argument. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised, agree with that and come to our side when they hear that, because it is true. This is for all the children. They have a right to know as much as possible about everybody that they live with. So don't be discouraged about testifying. Your voice is important. It doesn't matter who you are.
That's powerful. Actually, someone had asked for a sample letter, but I think you're making the case, Dr. Zamora, that if people speak from the heart and explain to their elected representatives, doesn't even have to be a long letter, but just speak from the heart. And State Representative Morales, as you mentioned, so our team there from Dr. Valenzuela, we'll have Dr. Carmona on the phone, Dr. Zamora by text. We have two educators. So I think we'll be able to cover every angle pretty much too, especially the commercial side and the technical side. And I'm gonna pedir disculpa from the people in the comments. I've been a little late on getting to the comments. We just had Trinidad Gonzalez just said hi to folks. Give me a shout out. And now I'm gonna try and bring everybody on. So forgive me if we drop anyone off. So now we're gonna bring Professora Lucero Saldana and Ronald Castro and Lucero. We're going to let you introduce the star. So you're bringing a student on. So let's start with the student who's the star, because this is why we're doing it all, ¿verdad? So
Tony,
Claro.
may I say something really quickly? I don't want to interrupt the wonderful introduction, but so unfortunately, Ruben had to hop off. He had another engagement, but Representative Morales, we will share our phone numbers. I know you have Ruben's, but we'll also be available via text if there are any technical questions that you have on the SBOE side. That way, I mean, we won't be able to be there in person, but text us in the middle of a conversation, and we're happy to help.
That's awesome. By the way, we all have a cool story about when all these powerhouses met, you know, which is beautiful. Awesome. So Lucero, tell us about your student.
So I have Frida here.
Hello.
She is a 6th grade student at Bonham Academy, and she's currently taking Mexican American Studies right now. And she's also in the Conjunto course. So we actually have a Conjunto course that, helps us with our MOS programming. So this is Frida, and she would like to share a little bit about her experience in MOS.
Now I'm going to put her solo on the screen, Frida. Is that okay? You're not, are you okay for being in the spotlight?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to remove myself. We're going to let's applaud her, and we're going to give the floor to Frida. Then we'll be back with the teachers in one.
All right, Frida, what's your experience as a MOS student? What have you learned?
It's really fun being a MOS student, and I've learned about corridos, like type of music, in my MOS class. And at the beginning of the school year of 6th grade, I didn't want to sign up for the MOS program because I was like, oh, I already know everything about like Mexican culture, and but my mom made me sign up, and I'm glad that she made me, because it's a very good experience. And yeah.
Tell us why this is important. Why is MOS important within our K through 12 schools?
Well, I think it's important personally is because people should know more about their culture and what the other side of the story says, not just the good guys or the bad guys part of the story. Like there's either 3 or 2 parts of the story that and both sides should be heard, kind of like a courtroom, like one person and another person, something like that.
Wow. So wait, let me get this straight. not only supposedly is ethnic studies fun, supposedly, you're cultivating eloquent young scholars like this. Aplausos. Oh, that's great. I want to bring in Ron Castro. Are you doing this sort of work too over at Project Yes? Is that what's going on over there?
Yes, Prep. It's the first year of our journey to write this curriculum. So I'm sure as we move through it, like I'm not a musician and music is not my strength, but we know people who have that as a strength. So we'll bring that in as we find others. We were tied in. We had our Aztec dancer come in to speak to us this year. So I was glad to have them come in because it's also not a thing that I'm an expert in. I am overjoyed when I see students like this, especially at a young age, be proud to use the First Amendment. The First Amendment is something that we teach in all the grades. So if you give me 2 minutes, I will show you how this works, especially since the question was asked earlier, like, do I need to write an essay? Do I really need to send an email? I don't know how to do this. This sounds hard. This sounds like adults. It also sounds like kids because kids, they struggle with using their voice. So step 1 in the First Amendment, freedom of religion. And that's not just like praying to Jesus and having God in your life. It's freedom of thought. So when you have crazy thoughts like we should all have ethnic studies as a thing for real for everybody, it's in your brain. So then you get to number 2, freedom of press. You've got to be able to write it down. If you don't write it down, it doesn't exist because then it can easily go away and it's permanently recorded. Then you have freedom of, but look, I had it written down in my notes, and my notes are the 5. Okay. Then you have freedom of speech. You got to say it. You gotta think it. You got to write it down. You got to say it. Otherwise, you can take it back. Or like, no, I was kidding. I didn't really mean it. You get to number 4, freedom to assemble. You assemble with your buddies, a lot like what we did today. You assemble with them because you're not the only crazy person in the room. You're a bunch of people who agree on the same thing. And then finally, petition's the one that get people like, what does petition mean? Well, petition is you taking your crazy thought and taking it to the people in charge and saying, this is what we want. Can you fix that for us? And all of these are in action when we go to Austin tomorrow. So what we're asking for some people on the internet today is, look, if you can't make it to Austin and have your freedom of speech, do your freedom of press and your petition and just write it down. These are my thoughts. This is how I feel. Like what I wrote down, my wife edited it for me. She's like, are you sure you want to say that? And I was like, well, that's how I say it. And if I don't say it the way I say it, that's the way you're saying it. So I'm glad to be able to go to Austin, but we don't all have that privilege and liberty. So if you can write it down and email this email that's scrolling through the feed, do that. And we've all practiced our First Amendment.
I love it. We're going to have Lucero say a few words, but I do want to point out, you mentioned the privilege of going. So please, we know everybody tiene su granito de arena, but like Representative Morales said, these rules are meant to keep a ton of folks from getting involved in maybe only the most mighty bills with the most support rise to the top, because it is hard, short notice. You're technically savvy if you've never done it before. So there's a lot to it. Tomorrow, Ronald Castro, Professora Lucero Saldana's going tomorrow. Lucero, you've been involved since you were an undergraduate. Why are you putting so much time and energy into this on top of teaching? And I'm going to bring everyone else back too. While you chat.
I'm sure this is definitely my passion. I love Mexican American studies, and I do believe that everyone should know their histories at one point. Like, what point do we have these histories in our curriculum? It must be now, right? I would also like to point out that the privilege part really got to me, because one of the things that really sparked me was this morning was that tomorrow a lot of us are having STAR testing. So a lot of our educators and a lot of our students are not able to come to the Capitol and testify because they're going to be in a classroom for 4 hours being in the STAR testing room. So I'm privileged enough that I'm not in the classroom any longer in the K through 12 setting, but I also have such a supportive administration where they told me, yes, you could definitely go to the Capitol and testify for MAS, because this is really important for our students, right? And I'm very blessed that, Frida, last minute, I called her up and I was like, hey, do you want to do this? And she said, yes, of course, I'll help you out. So Frida's the only student right now, but just imagine how many more students we can get whenever we have more time.
So Frida will be there tomorrow?
She would not be there tomorrow.
Okay. But she's here today. That's what matters.
I'm here on the call. She is here.
That's huge. That's huge. Y con todo ganas y ánimos. That's huge. Well, let's go through and have everyone say a last word to convince someone, touch their heart, make them understand what our goal is, and we'll go one by one, and then we'll say goodnight to folks. So then we'll start with Texas State Board of Education Representative Marissa Perez. Any parting words?
No, just que le damos gas. Let's keep going. Thank you so much again, Representative Morales, for pushing this bill, and for everybody on this call that's on the panel and that's joining us. This is really, really important work, and it's, even though we weren't fortunate enough to engage in this sort of education, we're creating a pathway for youth that's going to be life-changing. It really will be. And so thank you for all the work that everybody's done on this call.
That's awesome. Gracias. Dr. Zamora, Dr. Valenzuela, parting words of inspiration?
Well, I don't think I can be there, but I've been inspired today to make every effort to be there. And I will be there to represent those that cannot be there. When we say that this is a privilege, we're basically saying that we're giving you the opportunity to speak for the rest of us. That's a privilege. And we trust that you will. And this is why we're making this appeal. We often say things that sound kind of trite, but they're very profound. We are a family. We have, at the end of the day, what matters is the kind of relationships we build with each other. And the best relationships are the relationships that are based on caring for others. We need to get out of ourselves and speak on behalf of everybody else. That, in this case, young people, they need to know. And it is a privilege to be a part of such a loving, caring family that we have, that's gone through all kinds of challenges. And we've demonstrated our mettle as a family. We've stuck together. We care for each other. We're moving forward. We're not moving back. So come join us however you can. And if you can't, we'll be there to represent you.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Tony, for making this possible. And thank you again, Rep. Morales, for your leadership. We can't do it without great leaders, champions like yourself. And also, of course, our beloved Marissa and Ruben. We all have been so amazing. You've been with us every step of the way. And I think what's important like Emilio said, what's important for people who are listening to this right now is that including Chris. Chris, you didn't talk too much about the NACCS has FOCO, but we're actually a very big group and very well organized. And all these years of struggle have resulted in, I think, ever greater sophistication and capacity. And that's very encouraging. I'm very encouraged. And we're throughout the state of Texas. We know each other. We're a very large network. And we're not only connected to each other at the state level, but we're connected to each other across many states where the same struggle, this advocacy is playing out. And so whatever we think is helpful to ourselves, do trust and know that this is getting paid attention to by folks everywhere. Everywhere. A lot of people care about this. They really want this because they know that struggles over curriculum are far and few between. People treat the educational enterprise as if it's just a tweak, a bill, and something that you can shift at the legislature by fiat, when we know that it's deeper, much deeper than this. You can't even have a bill unless you have the embodiment of ethnic studies in the work that we do at Academia Cuautli, locally, what Dr. Chris Carmona does in the Valley, Rio Grande, and what Lucero, what you're doing in San Antonio, all of us are doing. Is what gives rise to what we know to be the truth about our curriculum and our pedagogy, which is that it liberates us to our own possibilities and our children's possibilities. And in so doing, we are encouraged, right, in community, in the love about which Emilio spoke, to as a platform to achieve at high levels and or to accomplish our full human potential. And that's really what we not only seek for ourselves, but what we want for everybody else.
Wow, that is beautiful. And on that note, Christopher, you do a lot of work to organize the committees, the summits. We appreciate you do all that work because you are a PhD, putting a lot of brain power and you're keeping us together. Any parting thoughts about why you do all that and why people should get involved?
Well, I mean, I do this the same reason I think we all do this. It's not really about us. I mean, I didn't take any ethnic studies courses until I was in grad school. And so that's I was late to the game, but I think we all kind of were as scholars. Yeah. And for me, it's about, if I would have gotten this when I was in school, right, how much farther we could gotten here. Wow. And that's really why I do this work, because it's not for us, right, Tony? It's not for us at all. It's for the next generation and the generation after. Because, the work we do here is important, but it doesn't necessarily affect us. It affects the next generation. And that's what we're here for. That's where we do what we do. And, and like NACCS de House FOCO is where this all came together. And NACCS de House FOCO has been the lead organization in this movement here in Texas. I mean, we have been pushing this for a long time. And that's important to know. So, but it is for the students, it is for the kids, and it's for the kids that haven't been born yet. In 100 years, we want this to be all the way, pre-K through 12. Those are my parting. Yes.
Awesome.
In utero.
Yes.
So, and State Rep Morales, so, you make that trip from Houston to Austin a lot. Thank you for investing your time and energy. And any parting words that maybe anything we overlooked or any nuances that has escaped us?
Well, I'm just so honored and proud to have all of your support. I'm excited that I'll meet some of you in person tomorrow and see some of you virtually testifying. This, by far, is the bill I'm most passionate about that I filed this legislative session. And from the beginning, Tony, you and I talked about quality, not quantity of bills. And this one is the number one for me. So tomorrow is a very important day. I also wish we had more time to get ready for the testimonies, but it just the way it turned out, the word came on Thursday right before Easter weekend, and here we are scrambling to get everyone together. But I believe that we will do very, very well, and we'll get this bill passed out of committee, which will be the next step. So, thank you.
No, thank you, Ron. You better get to sleep, Ron. So I'm leaving tomorrow at 5:45. What time are you leaving?
You said 6. So my final thoughts. This starts at the state. So for me as a teacher, it ends up being money. Like, it's a money question. My building principal, my directors need to fund a teacher to teach this class. My students need textbooks and resources. And we're not making anybody's life harder by adding it as an option. What we're trying to do is make everybody's life easier by adding this option. And then for the teachers, more importantly, is to be funded. Because if we don't have that kind of support, it's easy to squeeze us out. And if we're optional and not required and maybe not even existent, then teachers don't, principals have to make cuts somewhere. And I've taught long enough to see a lot of cuts. And when I see band get cut or art get cut or dance get cut, that's the reality of the educational world. I don't want to be cut, and I want this to be added. I want this to be permanent. I want it to be something that we can look forward to. I want my grandkids to look forward to the class that the grandpa helped support.
Wow.
That's where the reality for me is. I want everybody to take this class. I don't have African American Studies yet at my campus, but next year when they teach it, I'm going to sit in on those classes because I look forward to my partners teaching these courses as well as Native American Studies when it gets adopted. So we're not just fighting for us, we're fighting for everybody. And if I can throw in one quick little story, because that's who I am as a teacher, I go down to Pasadena to the Crown Hill Cemetery once a year. I go to help with the cemetery. They do a recreation of the people buried there. They have people buried there from day one to present day. So when they were fighting at San Jacinto, the Mexican soldiers that died, they died at that cemetery.
Wow. And
last year we had an issue with a lady whose great grandpa was buried there. He was Mexican. And she was looking at the sign that said Mexican cemetery, like the portion of the cemetery that was Mexican. She said, I don't like how that says Mexican. And what was missing was that there was a misunderstanding between the Anglo carers of the cemetery and her. And what this class would do is to help with empathy. Empathy goes a long way, and understanding goes a long way. It's not just knowledge, because these people are very knowledgeable. It's the empathy that we're teaching in school sometimes that goes a long way to helping create diverse, caring individuals. And that's what we all want.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And I've been neglecting the people in the comments too much. I'm sorry. First of all, Terrell Quillen Q shouting Unidos. And there's one technical question. Valerie, who's part of our familia, asked if we arrive by 2 p.m., do you think we'll be able to testify? What are your thoughts on that, Representative Morales? Because don't we still have to register in the morning at the kiosk, right?
Correct. And because normally my bill would be one of the last ones to be laid out, I believe that 2 o'clock would be okay. Actually, we have to be on the House floor at 2 o'clock. So, that's a good question. And if we can get phone numbers, it would be great to reach out again and say, hey, we need people come right now. Because even if they're still in committee and we haven't heard all the bills, we have to stop and then go to the House floor to start our session for the day. And then depending on how long that is,
okay.
When that's over, then we go back into committee. So it's just really hard to say right now. We can get a better idea in the morning.
And I have Valerie's email. I think Christopher may have Valerie's text, but we'll get that and keep her posted. And then Christopher, I think you mentioned a graduate student was going to go and testify.
I think she's an undergraduate, isn't she, Angela? She's one of yours, Alexandria.
Yes, I think Alexandria Roman is going to testify.
Okay.
She told me she's going to be there. Yes.
Okay. We'll add Alexandria to the list, Representative Morales, and then we'll make sure to text Valerie, and we'll post it on Facebook. On this Facebook page, we'll tell people, hey, you can keep coming and etc. And I wanted to save the last comment for Lucero, because Anita said the coolest thing on earth. Oh, I lost it. She said she wants to see Frida teach Mas. Lucero, say some party words and then throw it to Frida.
That's my mom.
Lucero, say some parting words and we'll throw it to Frida, because we're doing all this for you, Frida. We're your committee, all right? We work for you. ¿Qué piensas, Lucero?
I mean, I want Frida to be a Mas teacher too. I want her to have a full-time job as a Mas teacher and not as for instance, I used to be an ELL coordinator and a Mas teacher, but I wasn't getting paid to be a Mas teacher. I was doing that because I loved Mas. So I would love to see us across the state have ethnic studies teachers. I think that would be so beneficial for our society. Why not? It should be now.
I love it. Frida, kick us off. Wrap it up for us. Put a bow on this, Frida. ¿Qué piensas?
Well, for my mom's comment earlier, I do want to become a MAS teacher because one of my favorite classes is MAS, and I do kind of want to go to over there to testify too, but I can't because tomorrow I have my MAS class and I wouldn't want to miss that. And so
it's okay. You'll be learning about this in your MAS class. I already talked to Ms. Manriquez about it. So Ms. Manriquez is actually going to create assignments based on this already. Wow. Shout out to Ms. Manriquez.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Well, that's a wonderful note. Oh,
could
please.
I say something? Yeah. I'm not a high schooler. I'm not going to become a high schooler in a lot of years, not in a few years, a lot of years. But if this happens, I'm going to look forward to it.
That's beautiful. That's a wonderful.
This is all for you, Frida. All for you.
We want to thank everybody for convening on short notice, for doing all this work over long term. Again, we will rebroadcast this on Latino Politics and News Radio on 90.1 FM KPFT not tomorrow, Tuesday, next Tuesday, and then also on Nuestra Palabra Latino Writers Have to Say. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for tuning in.